I still remember the day my family's life changed forever. The day that would eventually lead to its downfall. Pause. It was a typical Sunday morning, with the warm sun shining through the windows and the sweet aroma of my mother's cooking wafting through the air. My father, a successful businessman, was sitting in his favorite armchair, reading the newspaper, while my mother was busy in the kitchen. My siblings and I were arguing over what game to play, our laughter and shouts filling the room. Pause. But little did we know, our happiness was short-lived. As the days went by, I started to notice a change in my father's behavior. Pause. He became increasingly distant, often locking himself in his study for hours, and when he did come out, he seemed preoccupied and troubled. My mother tried to brush it off, saying he was just stressed with work, but I knew something was wrong. Pause. I would often catch him arguing with my mother in hushed tones, their conversations always ending in bitter silence. The tension in the house was palpable, and I could feel the weight of it bearing down on me. I tried to focus on my studies, to distract myself from the turmoil that was brewing at home. Pause. But it was no use. The fights between my parents grew more frequent, and the atmosphere in the house became more toxic. I would often find myself walking on eggshells, never knowing when the next explosion would happen. Pause. My siblings and I would huddle together, trying to comfort each other, but even we couldn't escape the feeling of dread that had settled over us. It was as if we were all just waiting for the other shoe to drop, for the inevitable to happen. And then, one fateful night, it did. Pause. I was awoken by the sound of my parents' raised voices, their argument more intense than ever before. I crept out of my room and made my way to the top of the stairs, peering down into the foyer below. Pause. My father was standing with his back to me, his fists clenched, while my mother was pacing back and forth, her eyes blazing with anger. The air was thick with tension, and I could feel the hatred emanating from both of them. Pause. It was a moment that would be etched in my memory forever, a moment that would change the course of our lives. As I watched, frozen in horror, my father turned and walked out of the house, leaving my mother standing alone in the foyer. Pause. She collapsed to the floor, her body racked with sobs. I felt a pang of fear, not knowing what would happen next. Pause. My siblings and I crept back to our rooms, trying to make sense of what we had just witnessed. But as the night wore on, the silence was oppressive, and I couldn't shake the feeling that our family was on the brink of collapse. The days that followed were a blur of confusion and uncertainty. Pause. My father didn't come back, and my mother was left to pick up the pieces. She tried to put on a brave face, but I could see the pain and sadness in her eyes. Pause. My siblings and I were left to navigate the treacherous landscape of our new reality, trying to make sense of what had happened. We would often gather in the living room, trying to talk about our feelings, but the words would get stuck in our throats. Pause. It was as if we were all trapped in a never-ending nightmare, with no escape in sight. As the weeks turned into months, our family began to fray at the seams. Pause. My mother struggled to make ends meet, working multiple jobs, just to keep a roof over our heads. My siblings and I were left to fend for ourselves, often going hungry, or wearing worn-out clothes to school. Pause. The once happy home was now a mere shadow of its former self, a constant reminder of what we had lost. I felt like I was losing myself, like I was drowning in a sea of despair. Pause. I didn't know how to keep my head above water, how to stay afloat in a world that seemed determined to pull me under. But even in the midst of all that chaos, I found solace in my studies. Pause. I poured my heart and soul into my books, using them as an escape from the reality of my situation. I devoured every word, every sentence, every paragraph, using the knowledge to build a wall around myself, a wall that would protect me from the pain and the heartache. Pause. It was my way of coping, my way of surviving. And as I delved deeper into the world of books, I began to realize that I wasn't alone. Pause. There were others out there, others who had gone through similar experiences, others who had come out on top. I started to read about families who had been torn apart by infidelity, by addiction, by abuse. I read about children who had been left to pick up the pieces, who had been forced to grow up too quickly. And I realized that my story wasn't unique, that there were countless others out there who had gone through similar struggles. It was a comforting thought, a thought that gave me the strength to keep going. I knew that I wasn't alone, that there were others out there who understood what I was going through. As I navigated the complex web of my family's secrets, I began to uncover the truth. I discovered that my father's infidelity had been going on for years, that he had been lying to us all along. I learned that my mother had known about it, that she had been trying to hold on to the marriage, to keep our family together. But it was too late, the damage had been done. The trust had been broken, and there was no going back. I felt a mix of emotions, a mix of anger, sadness, and betrayal. I didn't know how to process it all, how to make sense of the chaos that had been unleashed upon us. But as I looked back on those tumultuous years, I realized that I had been given a rare gift. I had been given the chance to see the world in all its complexity, to understand that nothing is ever as it seems. I had been given the chance to develop a resilience that would serve me well in the years to come. And I had been given the chance to forge a new path, a path that would lead me to a brighter future, a future filled with hope and promise. As I stood at the crossroads, looking back on the devastation that had been wrought upon my family, I knew that I had a choice to make. I could let the secrets and the lies define me, or I could use them as a catalyst for growth. I could let the pain and the heartache consume me, or I could use them to fuel my journey forward. And as I made my decision, as I chose to rise above the ashes, I knew that I would never be the same again. I would never be the naive, innocent child that I once was. I would be stronger, wiser, and more resilient. And so, as I stand here today, I want to leave you with a message of hope. If you're going through a tough time, if you're struggling to make sense of the world around you, just know that you're not alone. There are others out there who have been through similar struggles, others who have come out on top. Don't be afraid to reach out, to seek help, to talk to someone about what you're going through. And don't be afraid to take the first step towards healing, towards recovery. It won't be easy, but it will be worth it. If you've made it this far, I want to thank you for listening to my story. It's not an easy one to tell, but it's a necessary one. It's a reminder that we're all human, that we all make mistakes, and that we all have the capacity for growth and change. So, if you found this story relatable, if you found it inspiring, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Let's start a conversation about hope, about resilience, and about the human spirit. Let's support each other, let's uplift each other, and let's rise above the ashes together.